So this is an excerpt from chapter 13 of Dr. Seuss and Mr. Geisel called The Cat in the Hat, 1955 to 1960. Because Ted thought in scenes, he believed that the Cat in the Hat was born in a scarred brass cage of an ancient elevator at the Houghton Mifflin Publishing House in Boston. This elevator rose and descended with shutters and winds, cajoled by a small, stooped woman wearing a leather half-glove and a secret smile. Ted rode with her one day in the spring of 1955 and never forgot her, nor the noisy contraption that was her domain. On the elevator with them was William Spaulding, who directed Houghton Mifflin's education division. Ted had known him in Washington during the war, and it was at Spaulding's urgent entreaty that Ted had come to Boston. The son of a Yale Dean of Education, Spaulding was zealous in his conviction that a lively new kind of primer could address the growing illiteracy among children. A popular book by Rudolph Flesch, Why Johnny Can't Read, had helped to propel the issue into a national scandal. The newly arrived enemy was television. The sale of comic books were soaring, and pictures were overwhelming words. In a memorable outburst in life, the novelist John Hersey, after serving on a citizen school study council in Connecticut, had attacked this typical school primer as antiseptic little sugar books showing how Tom and Betty have fun at home and school. Pallid primers with abnormally courteous, unnaturally clean boys and girls. Uniform, bland, idealized, and terribly literal. Why should they not have pictures that widen rather than narrow the associative richness that children give to the words they illustrate? Drawings like those of those wonderfully imaginative geniuses among children's illustrators: Tenniel, Howard Pyle, Dr. Seuss, Walt Disney. Over dinner, Spaulding proposed that Ted write and illustrate such a book for 6- and 7-year-olds who had already mastered the basic mechanics of reading. Write me a story that first graders can't put down, he challenged. Though more polite than committed, Ted was intrigued with Spaulding's insistence that the book's vocabulary be limited to 225 words, and agreed to take Spaulding's word list home and play with it. Ted tossed Spaulding's list in a tray on his desk and promptly forgot about it while he polished off If I Ran the Circus. But one afternoon, he began pondering two of his favorite words from childhood and outlined a story about a queen zebra, before discovering that neither queen nor zebra was on the list. He started over and tried a line or two, and then, wailing to Helen, who was his wife, "There are no adjectives," and then flung the sheet aside. But he dreaded disappointing a friend and felt guilty. I read this list 40 times, and I got more and more discouraged. It was like trying to make strudel without any strudels. I was desperate, so I decided to read it once more. The first two words that rhymed would be the title of my book, and I'd go from there. I found cat, and then I found hat. That's genius, you see. Ted described the ordeal as something like being lost with a witch in a tunnel of love. The only job I ever tackled that I found more difficult was when I wrote Baedeker's guide Eskimos used when they traveled to Siam. Since Bartholomew and the Oobleck, he had been writing in verse and intended to continue doing so. In verse you can repeat, he said. It becomes part of the pattern. To teach, you have to repeat and repeat and repeat. Yet the limited vocabulary posed excruciating complexities in rhyming. It took me a year of getting mad as blazes and throwing the manuscript across the room, he said. For much of that year, he fought under this handicap to achieve a rollicking rhythm. As Ted struggled with the verse, he began doodling sketches of the cat. He wanted a wily character, but not a mean one, a suave troublemaker, a ringleader of uncontrolled enthusiasm who is surprised when he messes up. Now, as he shaded in the tall feline in a jaunty red and white stovepipe cap, he was creating what would become the best-known member of the Dr. Seuss menagerie. This confident cat could stride on 2 legs, juggle and ski, and it wore white gloves and a red bow tie with 3 impossible loops. Finally, the words began to click into place. Ted paced less often in the studio and spent longer hours at the drawing board. The cat was taking charge. And so next, we'll go to Sidney Gilray, who's going to read to us. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, Dr. Seuss's very first book.